Hello everyone. In the previous session we had seen something called as program execution in .NET. In this session we will simulate that complete thing that we had discussed. So I have this block diagram here. You can see the C# file, then C# compiler. I get managed assembly. This is the managed assembly of CLR. So CLR execute managed code. So we're having managed assembly here in the form of .exe or .dll. Keep that in mind that your exe or dll is in form of MSIL. This is Microsoft Intermediate Language. If you are working with .NET, you get Microsoft Intermediate Language. If you work with Java, you get something called as bytecode here. Okay. Then this exe, or you can say this assembly, gets to the JIT compiler and it converts this high level into the lower level, or you can say the native code or the machine code, which directly executed by your operating system. And we had this thing too. We had seen this one. So we go by these steps, these blocks. So I open my Visual Studio. So I select C sharp code. So this is my language. So we complete this block. This has been eliminated here. Language C sharp, we had selected language C sharp, and then .NET application. So we created one application, that is this one, test project. This is not yet compiled and not executed. So you can see my code is not yet completed. So this is not yet compiled, not yet executed. Okay, so we need some meaningful instruction here. So we will write some meaningful instruction in the form of console.writeLine. Okay, it's just console dot and put the write line and just print one message that this is my first .NET program. Okay, so this is my complete the .NET application project, and then I need to compile and execute it. So when I compile it, it can be done with the help of this language specific compiler, that is the C# compiler in our case. So when I go to this project, I build it, and then my build is succeeded, then I compile and execute it here. So I start debugging with the help of F5. You can do that too. So now, okay, so I need to add the console.read key, sorry, because this will, yeah. So now I'll again build it. So build succeeded. Again I run this application. So I'm running it with the help of C# compiler. I get the output here. So you can see this is my first .NET program. So this is now compiled and executed. So we are on this step. We get the assembly, or you can say the exe, but you cannot see any exe here. There is no exe in the solution explorer, nothing here too. So how can we get this exe? Is basically you go to your basic this application, right click and go to the open folders in Windows Explorer. Click here, go to your bin, go to the debug, and there you can see test project.exe, and you are now on this step, assembly.exe. Now, as I told you that this exe is in the form of MSIL, I cannot see any MSIL here. So how can we see this Microsoft Intermediate Language? Is with the help of one tool that is known as ILDESM. Okay, I can write it over here. ILDESM. This is Intermediate Language disassembler. Okay, so this is Intermediate Language disassembler. So you can go to the Windows and just type ILDESM. In case you're having higher versions of this Visual Studio, you can get your ILDESM by going to the Windows and then type Visual Studio command prompt, and I think you can get this from here too, ILDESM, and you can see you get your ILDESM here. So just type ILDESM in the command prompt of Visual Studio, you get this ILDESM window. So I have this ILDESM. So I will select my exe. So I just drag and drop. You can drag and drop your exe too, so that will work. That works very fine too. So I just drag and drop. Okay. Now I go to my test project. This test project is this one. So I open this. You can see test project.program. So it is coming from here. This one. This is basically your class. So you can see class program here. Okay, inside that we having one constructor, that is default constructor comes up. And then we having main method, that this main method is nothing but this one, static void main string argus. So this is your main method. I double click here and you can see this is your MSIL code. Okay, this is your MSIL managed code. You can see this is my first .NET program from console.writeline. So this console.writeline gets converted into LDSTR, that is load string, in the MSIL code. Okay, so this is basically your MSIL code. So we are on this particular step here. Okay, now I cannot possibly can make you visualize on this part that then this. Okay, just okay, then I cannot make you visualize this one, JIT compiler, and then this native code, and then this operating system. This is somehow impossible for me right now. So what exactly you do after this step, you go to your test project.exe, okay, and you just double click here, and this process gets hidden from us, and you get something called as output window directly. Okay, your operating system run this exe, but we cannot see this JIT compiler in native code. Okay, so if I double click here, it will run very fine. But as I told you here, that in this process we need the compiler plus exe. This is the problem here, right? And I told you in this part, in this .NET, we doesn't need any compiler. Okay, it runs without that. So what I do here is, you can see the other files that are connected with this exe. So if I just copy it, and if I paste it somewhere else, let's say I paste it over here, do you think this will run or not? So let's say this computer is now another computer which doesn't have any compiler or anything. Okay, so do you think this will run or not? So if I double click over here, you can see this is running. So this is basically the advantage that I was talking about in my previous video. So this is the advantage, that you doesn't need any compiler here, it just executed in this manner. Okay, so this is the program execution in .NET, and we had seen it. Thank you so much for listening to me.